Let's react to this MSI patch. I'm a little bit late on this, am I not? 1 day late. Let's see what Rod has to say. Senna is the big winner of the Season 2 changes, synergizing well with Doran's Helm, gets a lot of effective help from her Q, he is synergizing with Resist, as well as getting a lot of stats from Jack of Trades. True. Also, Daffar Touch is a really good keystone. Also, people figuring out they can go like Celerity, Move Speed Shard. She doesn't need attack speed chart. People figuring that she has way too much utility. She has really good moon speed. She scales like a monster. This is all very true. Senna was the highest win rate champ in the game. Synergizes with static show on hit. We made the decision to not support this interaction. Q cooldown reduction on hit, even though it's pretty cool. So this is obviously very highly skilled mechanic, because good Senna players would Q first or whatever, and then auto and then Q again, because your static shield would basically make your Q come insta back up, and then with the mana moon build, you were and mana full band, you were able to spam Q all the time, which pretty much gave her infinite sustain. We think should also be too much damage. Yeah, so big nerfs coming to Senna. Brand are primarily targeted at his bot lane carry tuning, while also trying to affect his support and mid last. Brand support is also often a frustrating experience for bot laners, so we think he should also sit a little bit lower. So he's talking about win rate. Given that Brand support synergizes better with mana regen, we're compensating through this avenue by adding some amount of mana pressure for the roles that need to use E more often. So I have no idea how Riot thinks they will be able to make changes that will affect mid lane less than bot lane. Let's see. Cassiopeia, we want to retain her identity of having a strong all-in pressure early, so that adds texture to the roster. She's one of the unique mages that can do this. We're targeting her durability mid-game, where she's more vulnerable, especially in skirmishes or when she's playing on the sideline. This can also help her on edges, but present more areas of vulnerability for opponents. Bard is the top of the meta for both pro and in many brackets of solo queue. We're adjusting how much damage she's built to. Okay, I think this is like spot on. Bard has always like Bard's strength should always be mobility and should be utility. Bard's strength should not be damage. The fact that this champion can solo kill 80 carries, the fact that this champion can do literally most damage in the game as support, rushing Deadman's Blade and Bloodsong, is just ridiculous. LeBlanc, helping LeBlanc scale a bit better in mid and late game. Given that this buffs help scaling, should also disproportionately help solo queue. Olaf, we're not looking to buff Olaf jungle a huge amount, given that he's already flex viable in top lane, but given that jungle was his initial primary role, we want to make it more viable. With the simple targeted Q buff. Okay, so there's a lot here to go through. So first of all, Aphelios. I have always complained that Aphelios should be more auto attack. Like, as someone who plays Aphelios, I feel like Aphelios, first of all, there's like a lot of issues I have with the champion. He should not be as spell centric as he is. He should be more auto attack centric. That's the first thing. Second of all, he should probably do a little bit less damage, but also be a little bit more durable, because the champ is too one-shotty. Either way. And then the third problem I have is that like some guns feel really useless, or some ultimates feel useless. Like you land like purple ult late game, it does fucking nothing, bro. You land like you get purple gun late game, you just want to FF, bro. What does it do? So Riot went for buffing his spells, I guess. So that's like multiple gun spells. That's like blue gun. Severum is maybe red gun. Calibrum is maybe blue gun. I don't know. No, Infernum is blue. Crescendum is white, I think. Actually, I have no idea, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna skip this. They're buffing spells. So Draven, 2 seconds off ECD. Our multi-hit fall off, 8% multiplicative to a minimum 40, 5 minimum of 50. Wow, so Riot has this trend right now where they buff utility spells by 2-second cooldown. A lot. They did this to a lot of champions. I think this will be noticeable. This is obviously ability he doesn't max, but you have to understand that ADCs don't also buy haste, so this is like literally full 2 seconds off pretty much throughout the game. And yeah, sometimes you're gonna get like the second E off, right? Or like the E will come back up in time, and then you're gonna be able to like cancel a jack jump or something like that. It will matter. And then they buff Draven R a lot. Like this is a spell that they keep buffing. I've noticed that over the last few Draven changes he had, they keep buffing the R. I don't know. They just want this spell to hit a lot, I guess. They want some highlight moments where you combo with a rel and then you get the big R off. Okay. Kai'Sa will also get W cooldown down for 2 seconds flat. R base shield also up by 30 to 90. Yeah, so okay, some durability of R, which is not always popped, but also you have to understand that this is an ability with a pretty long cooldown. And then the W buff, obviously gonna help all versions of Kai'Sa. Arguably maybe AP Kai'Sa a bit more because she relies on W more. But AP Kai'Sa can max W second, while AD Kai'Sa will max it last. So LeBlanc will get 20 damage more late game on the RQRE1. Wait, what? So the first instance of R1 and RE are both getting 20 damage up. The second instance will get also 20 to 40 damage up. That's, wow, that is a lot of damage, and that maybe pushes also Malignance LeBlanc a little bit more, but probably still gonna be a Ludens champ. But she also buys Ultimate Hunter, or like Ghost Ultimate Hunter a lot, and then her ult is like a 30-second spell. So this is a big deal because this is a very low cooldown spell, right? RW damage also up by 15 to 30. So it seems like the RW damage is gonna go up a little bit less. Riot has always buffed RW way less than RQ and RE, which makes sense because, I mean, RE is probably like the spell you can give the most love to because it's the spell with most counterplay, but yeah. Okay, so all of jungle. Why the fuck is all of jungle being buffed? It is my first instance. Like, sure, it's 40 damage a monster. Gonna buff his clear speed by maybe a couple seconds, whatever, but like, from what I know, this champ already clears 230 almost. So he has one of the fastest clears in the game. Second of all, this champion has shown to be picked constantly in Fearless Best of 5 recently, where in late Fearless, when there's not a lot of champs open, and Olaf has recently been buffed, he's also sitting at an extremely high win rate on top lane. Extremely high win rate. Olaf usually does not sit at this high win rate. I genuinely think this champion is insanely underrated. I think he's going to see a lot of pro play. He's also a flex pick. And in later Fearless drafts, he can run over drafts so easily. This champion should not be getting buffed. It's like mind-blowing to me. Poppy Jungle is coming back. Let's actually take a look here, because Poppy Jungle was really good. Was at some point like literally Thanos level of champ. What did Riot do again? Let me actually try to remember. Was it Dispatch? Minion and monster health ratio damage capped. So it was 75 to 195. So if you look at these numbers, it's just getting reverted. And then they did this buff as well, where the R cooldown, if you canceled it, which pro players were doing a lot, they would fake R. Now it goes to 30. Okay. So Poppy is just getting the Q damage monster reverted, and back then with this number, Poppy was really good jungler. So Poppy should probably make a return in Fearless. Now she's not that good as support anymore in my opinion. I think support Poppy did get nerfed a lot over time, but she's still viable. And if you draft a lot of dashes, then Poppy can be good. Kiana jungle. Yeah, I shall not speak. I don't know why she's getting buffed. Can't explain. Just ridiculous completely. Because you have to understand that this buff is not going to make pro players play Kiana jungle. So this is not even a pro play specific buff. I genuinely think this is just a solo queue buff. I genuinely like, I mean, should I even rant why this champion should not be buffed? I feel like at this point everyone knows. Every time this champion enters the meta, everyone loses their fucking mind. And they just like literally beg Riot to nerf it. It's just unhealthy. Vax. So, yeah, even though Vax sits at high win rates in solo queue, she's like kinda low elo skew champ, but the reality is that I think the champ, as a high elo player, I think the champion could use a buff. Definitely. I don't see it being wrong. Maybe low elo players think the champion should not be buffed. Not sure. E cooldown down by 1. Also very nice. Very nice for trading. Just nice. Okay. Early game, more so an early game buff. But it's like kind of like a buff where it's like similar to Hui E. But Hui E is obviously a better spell. A more important buff. But yeah. R takedown reset a window. Okay, 2 seconds more. So you can hold the R more. This is also nice, honestly. Because sometimes you do get the feeling that the R expires a bit too quickly. But But yeah, my problem with the Vex is also, it's still the same problem as I always had with Vex, which is that her kit makes no sense. 2 spells make sense together, 2 make sense together, but all 4 together don't make any sense. Her W and R make sense, but her Q and E just don't synergize with W and R. So this champion has a huge kit problem. I think this champion was just poorly designed, honestly. Zahin, W cooldown down by 2, so it's like similar to Draven, right? They buff this, like Rad does this like buffs on utility spells where they reduce 2 seconds off. Zahin does build a little bit more haste than Draven, but it is his max last spell. His last max spell, so okay, it's nice. It's gonna pull you in more often, more reliability on sticking to opponents, because this is Zahin's biggest issue. So Bard is losing a lot of chime damage, a lot. Like look at this, 5 last base, 4 last per 5 chimes, and this champion collects a lot of chimes throughout the game. Yeah, this is gonna be huge nerf. I'm expecting that they're gonna keep Bard weak for a bit and then buff him again, because I don't think this will stay this long. Brand, so base mana region up by 2. This is support skewed, obviously. E mana cost up by 20. So they're saying that they think that like Brand bot lane relies on E more than Brand mid lane. It's like, sure, but because you're playing against 2 champs, but this also nerfs Brand mid. Passive detonation damage, down by 2 early, and same AP ratio. So when Riot says in their preview, we're nerfing bottom Brand more than Brand mid lane. No, it's like, it's equal. Like, come on. What are we saying? Cassiopeia. Definitely OP right now. Definitely very stupid to face in high elo. Not very popular overall, so most players don't feel the problem with Cassio. She's also been pick and ban in pro a lot in LCK. In China, I believe, she started losing, so they stopped picking her. So basically, losing health per level, this is like a 1% equivalent win rate nerf, and she's going to be more reliant on either rushing Riley or rushing Roa, right? Because she's losing more health. So you're more reliant on buying health. But I do have to say that I don't think this nerf really hits the mark. I think Riot has failed here miserably. My problem with Cassiopeia is just way too much movement speed in the build. Way too much. Her passive should probably take a hit. The champion should not be running with like 420 MS by default at like level 5 with Swiftest Rush. And I also think that Cassiopeia, either like she should lose movement speed or she should lose mana. Because this champion should not be able to miss 50 Qs in lane, like before tier, and still be able to completely, not go and just shit on you. This is the problem. Like, I get that her early game should be oppressive, but at least like make her go a bit faster here, because yeah. E-Shield of Cassante down by 10, less scaling, okay, less shielding for Cassante. Pro players do use E a lot on this champion. Rexa E physical damage. So I've been saying that Rexa is very OP and it's very noticeable in Korean solo queue. This champion is literal free elo. E physical damage down by 22, and it is true damage at max rank, and less AD ratio as well by 4%, and the bonus true damage is also down by 5%, so she's just losing some damage. Still probably pretty good, honestly. Rumble will lose 10 damage in Q, but gain 5% AP ratio. So it's a bit of an early game nerf, but personally, from watching Rumble, I don't feel like this champion is like an early game bully necessarily. There are some matchups that he does that, but I also feel like this champion really like starts ramping up in mid game. So I don't know if this nerf is even really like that big of a deal for pro play. My feeling is it's not. Senna, basically, yeah, she's just getting murdered low-key, right? She's losing like, she's gaining way less souls per kill. So ADC Senna's getting gutted, and every time Riot touches the how many souls Senna gains, the champ becomes like turbo bad really fast. And then the crit damage reduction is also going like down, so she does less on crit, and then the Q cooldown refund also doesn't work with Shield. So yeah, if you're playing support Senna, you're less affected for sure. Although I believe support Senna will get more souls now, right? Yeah, support Senna will get 4% more souls. So there's like a compensation buff here in the patch notes. But if you, support Senna honestly will probably still be overall okay-ish. but AD Senna is, I think it's gonna die. Sion will get W mana cost down. This is, I guess, less affected if you're boss and you play Storm Raider Search because you go mana flow. But for tank Sion, it's probably a little bit more of a bigger deal here. And then the Q minimum damage will go down by a lot. Wow. So I guess the short Qs is really what gets affected here. If you do max Q, you're the same champ. I would say this is a big deal because I think on Sion you have to do short Qs a lot. Because it's way too hard to get like the full duration Qs against champs. Imperial Mandate, guys, this item is getting buffed, which I am surprised. I mean, it is kind of bad from the stats, unless you're like Tia, Lissandra, Galio. I do know that, I do wonder if Riot is like okay with this version of an item in the game, because it reminds me a lot of Actualizer, where there's only like a few champions that can use it, and it is probably too strong on those champs, like Actualizer with Rice. But then on everyone else, it just becomes like kind of bad. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what Nami is supposed to do as a champion. I'm actually surprised Nami is not getting buffed this patch. So, what's going on here? So, double Amp Tome. So, arguably a better build path. Let's be honest. It's losing 5 AP. Unique passive control. You're getting 5 more haste. And you're getting 1% more vulnerable on Immobilize. I mean, I personally think this is a buff to the item, and I'm not sure. No, the cost is the same. I feel like it's a small buff to the item, and for like Galio, Sandra, you're happier. And then Dornsheim is gonna lose gain 10 health and lose 2 armor to MR, which is a nerf, but is it a big enough of a nerf to not buy this item anymore? Because right now the meta is like Dorm's Helm plus Jack of Shades on champs like Jhin and champs like Senna, and maybe some other mid laners, top laners. I don't know. It is obviously a bit of a bigger Cassandra nerf because he cares about the resist for the Q cooldown. But I still feel like this item is on the strong side. So I think the item is fine. Still maybe the best Dorn item. Still one of the best. But yeah, overall, why the fuck are we buffing Kiana? Why are we buffing Olaf? And what is this Cassiopeia nerf? Is like my biggest complaints of this patch. But everything else is okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, LeBlanc buff is also very questionable. Are pro players even gonna play LeBlanc? Because, like, you know, Riot is only doing this buff because of MSI. Once MSI is over, if her winners is too high from these buffs, they're gonna nerf her again. I don't know, man. I don't know. But it is what it is, I guess.